Hey, everybody, welcome to part three of my life and presidencies. Like I said, I ran out of stuff to talk about. I hope I haven't done this before. I know I've talked about presidents in the past, and I also, for the millionth time, I'm going to tell you that my degree is in history with a minor in political science, so I find this stuff interesting, fascinating, actually. But I hope I'm not repeating myself too much. I know I've talked about a lot of my memories growing up, because I think this is episode, well, the third out of these three, carry the two times pi squared. I believe this is episode 318. So I've lost my mind. Okay, let's go into the Clinton years. Now, this is a cool thing that happened with me, and I believe I've mentioned this in a long past episode, but I got to see Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton on election day of 1992, whatever that was, November 5th, whatever it was. My mom was a local delegate, I believe, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, but she was a delegate of some sort. I don't know exactly how that system works, but she got invited to go see Clinton back when he. I just thought of the irony on this. He was. They're allowed. Here's the thing, they are allowed to campaign all the way up until 7 a.m. Eastern time, until right before the polls open. And so he was allowed to campaign, and he was in Denver, which was kind of a swing state back then. And so they were able to stay here till 5 in the morning, because obviously it's 7 on the East Coast. So they were able to stay at 5. My mom and I got coffee. We pulled an all-nighter, and it was nuts. Sinbad was there. One of the Carradine brothers was there, and it was electric, and it really was. I mean, it was, like I said in the last episode, first baby boomer, young, hip president, womanizer, very eccentric, not eccentric, but electric speaker, charismatic. I think by far, he and Obama were probably the two most charismatic. And you could say charisma for Trump too, honestly. I mean, it's not maybe not be a positive charisma, but these are men that get people excited for better or for worse. A lot of the presidents, Bush out of the last four presidents, Bush Jr., not so much. Okay, so I got to go quick because I got three two-term presidents I got to cover. That's 24 years of presidency. So let's go with Clinton real quick, but that was cool. And what the irony I was going to say was we were at Stapleton Airport. Stapleton Airport was named for a Klan mayor of Denver back in the 20s. We're starting to rename Stapleton stuff, which is good. Took us 100 years, but hey, we're getting there. But yeah, so we were at Stapleton International Airport in a huge hangar, and people were going ape shit. And we had already, or we were getting ready to vote the next day. And like I said, the Clintons were there, and it was really, really a cool atmosphere. So I can actually say I'm a pretty small percentage of people that has seen an elected president on the same day he was elected. So that's kind of cool. As we know, the Clinton presidency had a lot of turmoil with Monica Lewinsky. I don't think he should have been impeached for it, but the Republicans are probably still hurting from being impeached more than 20 years earlier with Watergate. Whitewater was a thing with the Clintons. I don't know much about that, honestly. I was more concentrated rather than on scandals with them. I just wanted to see how he would run the country. I think he did a pretty good job. When he took over in January of 93 to January of 2001, we had the 8 most prosperous years on the planet ever, and any country. Now, China may surpass that because they're doing really well. But from 93 to 2001, we were the most prosperous country, and that 8 years was the most prosperous of any country ever in the history of them recording this stuff. We also had not too many wars. We had some bad things happen. We had some surgical strikes. We had some attacks against us, including domestically, Oklahoma City, but we didn't have any major wars. I liked Clinton's policy in Iraq. Just kept that country in lockdown. There's no reason to do anything. It's a one big no-fly zone, and we're going to keep it that way. I think that was good for those 8 years. And then, and so in 2000, Clinton and Gore tried to do what Reagan and Bush had done several years earlier, I guess 12 years earlier, and they tried to get Gore to be the next president. A lot of claims that Gore really wasn't, I'm not going to say liked, but didn't sound like there was a lot of support, as much support from the Clintons as they could have when it came to Gore. Gore lost a very controversial election. Once again, I won't go off on a tangent about the Electoral College, but I think it's bullshit. Gore had 600,000 more votes, but it came down to Florida, where he ended up with like 1,000 less than George Bush, and If you know anything, Jeb Bush was the governor. George's brother was the governor. There was no way that Gore was going to win Florida. So let's go to Bush. Bush, I think, was uh, did some unwise things, honestly. I really don't like that. I think he could have handled Afghanistan better. I get it. 9/11, and I'm not going to totally blame him for 9/11. I'm going to give him 50-50, though. It was on his watch, but he was only 8 months in. You could probably give half of that blame to Clinton based on the lack of intel, but you got to give half of it to the guy who was the commander in chief at the time. But I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to go to Afghanistan. I was against it at the time, and I've always remained against it. Yeah, we were pissed, but we need to look at how the world looks at us. Why would someone do this to us? There are reasons, and they're not all insane reasons. And we should have looked at that. And maybe, could you imagine if we had just said, okay, we're gonna curl up, we're gonna heal. We might become a little more isolationist, but we're not gonna knee jerk and go bomb a country that none of those 19 terrorists were from. They were not one of them was from Afghanistan. They're training in Afghanistan, but why are we bombing this country? Why are we putting this country through more shit? So that was a big mistake. It was even a bigger mistake to go to Iraq. There was no reason to go to Iraq. Like I mentioned a minute ago, that country is on lockdown. There are no threat to anybody. We went to that war in 2003 based on a lie, a couple lies. Insurrectionists were not prevalent. There were no weapons of mass destruction. There was no way we should have gone there. It was a stupid war to go to, and I think that hurts Bush's legacy a lot. Of course, there was 2008, where the financial bubble burst on us. With the Fannie Mae's and Fannie Macs and all the lending and all of that stuff. And to be honest, you can go back and kind of say, the Bushes have always been fishy. If you know who Neil Bush is, he was part of the Silverado savings debacle back in the 80s. They mess around in money. They're blue bloods. That's what they do sometimes. And whether it's Bush as an oil person or Neil in the savings and loan game or Dad doing whatever he does, this is old money, and they mess around with it sometimes, and sometimes it comes back to bite them in the ass. And frankly, I know that's a tangent, but Bush should not have gone to either of those wars. A, it would have saved him a lot of money. B, it looked bad because he made Halliburton a ton of money. He made horrible entities like Blackwater exist that circumvent the Geneva Convention and do horrible things to I almost said civilizations, to the civilians of those populations. It's really horrible. Most of you have seen the films or the footage of those guys. They're terrible people. They're mercenaries. They're not good folks. So a lot of the Bush legacy is hurt. Now I'll go to Obama. I got 2 minutes to cover Obama and Trump. Maybe I'll make this a part 4. Obama, once again, felt pretty electric. Felt like something we needed after 8 years of not great decisions by, frankly, an old guard, right? I mean, yeah, Bush was a baby boomer as well. He was about Clinton's age. But if you look at that administration, whether it's Vice President Dick Cheney, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. To be fair, Secretary of State both Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice, younger boomers, black folks, great picks. I think a diverse choice that was necessary. However, a lot of those people in his administration were old rubbing elbows with old Daddy Bush. Dick Cheney? Come on, man. That guy's a war hawk, and so is Donald Rumsfeld. And a little sidebar about Donald Rumsfeld that you may not know, which is one of my favorite ironies in all of history, is Donald Rumsfeld in 1986. I forgot his actual position under Reagan, but he was a personal envoy to one Saddam Hussein. And then 15 years later, sworn enemy. So yeah, it's funny how that stuff works. That's why you don't put dictators in power to exact revenge on their neighbors and your supposed enemies, especially when you're doing it from across the ocean, especially when you're doing it to put 18 to 21-year-olds in a meat grinder for really nothing. So yeah, I mean, the Bush legacy, and gas was almost $5. I almost said a pound, $5 a gallon. Bush had it rough, and these guys age so poorly. Look at Clinton, Bush, Obama. They had hair like mine, and now it's hair like mine. From this to gray, it's really bad. God bless those men. I don't mean God bless because I'm an atheist, but really, I do. My heart goes out to them because I think most men have a good heart. and a somewhat competent head, but it's really not easy when you got to try to rule the free world. So there's part 3. We're going to do a part 4 because I haven't even talked about Obama yet. Boy, can I talk. All right, talk to you guys next time. Bye.